to see how everything's doing. You can see these apples are doing fabulous. So happy about that. I love apples. But coming over here, another thing that makes me really happy this morning is I had to replace my horseradish because I only had one and a rat got it. And I wasn't sure if these ones were going to make it, but today I'm actually seeing some signs of life, which makes me so happy because there's so many uses for horseradish. And might as well make horseradish sauce too while we're at it. But anyway, here's our tomato garden area. This is an area that's morning sun, but it gets substantially more shade. Tomatoes really struggle here because they just don't handle getting quite so hot. And I can see some of these, I started these from seed, are actually doing quite well. Started them inside actually. And it looks like one of the ones that Baker Creek sent me that's intended to do well in our climate actually is gonna take off and do something for me here. But what I've got going here is I have a tomatillo in the back, and I have this cage around it because tomatillos get really big and they fall all over the place, and I kind of want it to be a little bit controlled so it can grow up in this cage. And at some point when I'm done working in this bed, I will put a cage around the tomatoes to help to contain them as well and give them some support. But one of the things I'm experimenting with this year is having allium family things growing around my plants because so many bugs here. And I read that catnip actually repels those hornworms. So I've got this going here. We'll try that out. Thankfully, we don't have any loose cats that I've noticed around in our neighborhood, because otherwise that would be problematic. Here's our yarrow starting to bloom. Pretty soon I'll be picking some of this to dehydrate. I haven't really done a whole lot in this bed. I've had garlic growing in it. I had some potatoes over winter, and we actually did get a few, not as much as I'd like, but thinking we're going to try a lot more of that this winter over winter. But I've put some celery root seeds out there. Celery root is, as opposed to celery, you can actually use the root like you would use a potato. So we're waiting for those to come up. And just checking everything out. This is our newest addition. It's a Stella cherry. Not expecting to see too much on this. It did flower, which is encouraging, but it's a baby, as you can see. It we literally planted it as a stick, and it's already got all these branches coming off of it, so that's pretty awesome. And I got a little water here just in case I have something that needs a little extra. We do use bubblers on everything here, which is nice. Just love this apple tree. So this apple tree, it got off to a rough start. It had some borers in it, and we actually had some dead wood that we cut out. And we seem to have been very successful with managing those borers. So I'm really happy about that because this apple tree has been really good to us. Really produced a lot of apples. And it's not that big. It's actually shorter than I am. It's an Anna apple, in case you're wondering. And it's self-pollinating. And initially the apples are like green apples, but as they mature, they turn a nice yellow color with crimson streaks. And these things are so sweet. They literally taste like apple pie raw. So when it's a ripe, really ripe apple and it's raw, it tastes like apple pie. And we've had a few, like you can see this one is self-selecting to fall off. We've had a few come off, but mostly it's holding. We won't stress this tree by leaving all of these on here, but we'll let them get a little bit of size before we start eating them, because you know this is an awful lot on this tree to have all of these apples here right on this one branch. But happy about this. This is another apple that we got, and it's the second one we planted, and we've had this for about 4 years, and it is just now starting to fruit. Let me see if I can find a baby one for you that's setting on. It's got a lot of foliage going. Oh, here we go. Well, these are going to turn into apples, believe it or not, those little things. Oh, here they are. Yeah, right here. You can see it's going to fruit, and it's going to hold the fruit, so that's pretty exciting. And this actually looks like it has the potential to be a larger tree. I think it might be a Golden Delicious. My husband just brought it home from the store one day because we love the apples. And anyways, thankfully it's pollinating with only one of itself in here. Maybe it can interact with the other apple, but look, we're gonna get some here too. This tree has huge potential for us. This is a mandarin, and we haven't gotten any fruit off of this yet. It's pretty young. I think it's on its 4th year. I'm not really sure how long it's going to take. We plant everything in this yard. We planted as a stick. And that would have been about 2018, 2019. And if you want to have fruit trees, start planting them now, because if you do what we did and you start them as sticks, it takes a while for these things to grow and mature and produce fruit. Over here you see we have some green tea. I had mixed feelings about having it out here. I've read mixed things. Some things say they're drought tolerant, other things say they like humidity. The first one I put out, this one, it's a little rough from the shipping, but it seems to be doing okay. And so I added the other one, and the quail haven't tried to eat it. And now this is rapini, and I was letting it go to seed, but I can see that the quail took the pods off of it, so we're going to take that out. And this is some New Zealand spinach, which seems to be pretty hardy in our climate. It definitely doesn't bolt like the space spinach or some of the other spinach varieties. Let's take a peek at our grapefruit. This self-selected and dropped a little bit of fruit. You can see right down there, but look at that. And this thing is tiny. It's a tiny grapefruit. And last year we got about 8 grapefruit off of it, and it's looking really promising. Now it's possible that this could self-select and drop some more as they mature, but for now it's looking so promising. It's holding this much fruit. All right, let's come over here. This is a kumquat. This tree is almost as tall as I've had. It's very slow growing. So if you live someplace where you have a dry climate and a lot of sun and you don't have a lot of space, I would really recommend a kumquat. Once it starts producing, it puts on a lot of fruit, and you can just leave the fruit on for a while as you pick it and eat it. See, this one's starting to flower. Last year was our best year so far with this tree, and it actually produced a lot of kumquats. I was actually able to send some to one of my family members that loves kumquats. It's getting flowers here. I don't know if any of you remember me talking about our fire bells. We had pruned this back down to the base. This thing will get super tall, and it's not edible. It's just a little color spot here, something for the bees and the hummingbirds. And the fig that we really pruned is now starting to send out some branches, and let's see if we can see some of the figs in here. Look at this. First couple years we had this, and again we planted everything as a stick. It just made these little tiny fruits, and they really didn't get very ripe. And I kind of figured out when they're ripe from the birds, right? When these things get ripe, the birds show up for sure. But we're going to get quite a few figs here. Looking forward to those. We'll definitely be doing some cooking with that too. Let's check out our pistachio. Last year we didn't get any nuts on this. And the funny thing about pistachios, I'm not sure if it was the best thing to plant because it takes 10 to 20 years to get pistachios. But we've had this, again, 5 or 6 years, and we are now getting some pistachios, which means it probably was about 5 years old when we got it. And you have to have a male and female of a pistachio. It will not produce without male and female. So this is the only species of tree we have in our little yard that has both a male and a female. Look at all these beautiful nuts. I have to learn how to harvest these. I think they need to be dried quite a while. And okay, this is our apricot. Unfortunately, this apricot, it makes the most wonderful apricots, but it's been a little bit of a disappointment only because I believe the apple and this came with borers. And I was pretty successful with dealing with the borers on the apple, but you see how that's sticking right there? It's probably caught on a branch too, but when you see sap on your tree and you live someplace where there's borers, you know you have active borers, and that's disappointing because I've treated these trees to try to deal with that problem. So I'm thinking what we're going to do, rather than let this have a long extended death, is we're probably going to let it, whatever fruit doesn't fall off, it's been dropping fruit, whatever fruit doesn't fall off, we're going to let it get ripe, and then I'm really thinking I'm going to put a kumquat in here. Hard for me to let go of it, but again, if you know something's not going to make it, there's not a lot of point in keeping it up. And it takes a while to get fruit trees to produce, so might as well get that kumquat in place. And another nice thing about the kumquat is I noticed that the birds don't try to eat it. A lot of what we have grown, we've had to protect from the birds, and you can see, well, the wind blew my nuts all over the place. The apricots will definitely be a target once they're ripe. But this is just a little walk out in the garden, part of my peace of mind, to enjoy a little nature before I get ready for work, which I'm about to do. And this is a bird of paradise. These actually are growing out in that wash. Oh, here's a bee. See if I can get him in the, there we go. Look at that. We can't eat anything from this, but the hummingbirds and the bees do enjoy it. New addition we're trying this year. This is a marionberry in the blackberry family. We over summered it last summer in kind of a sheltered spot, and it made it through the heat of the summer, but these things do actually like sun. So we've moved it to a wall that's kind of hot, so we're going to be monitoring this. And we don't really have real heat yet, but so far it's doing really well. And we'll just have to see how it goes. I can move it if I have to. Some of my trees I've had to move a couple of times, obviously when they're small. Just in this climate, it takes time to figure out where stuff wants to grow. You can see our roses are almost done. I'm actually going to pick some of these today because I want to try making a vinegar with the flowers. I'm finding that flowers and herbs, edible flowers, make sure you're using edible flowers, make fabulous vinegar. So we'll give this a try and we'll report back on how it goes. Thanks for joining me in the garden this morning. Thank you.